The New York sky that day was crystal clear, sunlight flooding every corner of LaGuardia Airport. Yet, at Gate 37B, the air was icy cold. Amara Johnson, a black female CEO, entered the first-class area, pulling behind her a matte black Samsonite suitcase. She wore a perfectly tailored black suit, a white silk blouse, her hair neatly tied up and glossy. Italian loafers gliding silently over the floor. From her appearance to her demeanor, she exuded a calm confidence, the kind of calm that only those who had walked through hell could possess. But before she could reach the premium check-in counter, Meredith Parker, a gate agent, rushed over to block her path, as if Amara had just tried to bring a pizza into a five-star hotel. Meredith raised an eyebrow, giving Amara a once-over with a gaze that blended suspicion and disdain. "Economy check-in is over there, ma'am," Meredith said, emphasizing the word economy as if she were scraping gum off her shoe. Amara offered a polite, almost amused smile. She raised her phone, the screen brightly displaying her e-ticket. "First class, seat 2A. I'm flying first class to Singapore," Amara said in an even unshaken tone, as if she had encountered scenes like this hundreds of times before. Meredith glanced quickly at the screen, frowned, and muttered, "Looks like it might be a real ticket, but just head over to economy to be sure." Behind them, a few passengers peeked over, exchanging knowing looks. A middle-aged man in a golf shirt whispered to his wife, "Guess anybody can buy a first-class ticket nowadays." Hard to believe. And Amara. She simply tightened her grip on the suitcase handle. The smile on her lips froze like water, solidifying in a forgotten martini glass. In that fleeting moment, Amara knew she wasn't just fighting for seat 2A today. She was fighting for a principle. Dignity, fairness, no compromise. Before Amara Johnson stood here, sharp-eyed and immaculately pressed in her tailored suit, at the airport, she had once been just a little girl growing up in the battered housing projects of Southside Chicago, where there were more barbed wire fences than there were times neighbors didn't call the cops. Amara's mother, LaGuardia Johnson, was a woman with godlike legs, waiting tables at a fast food joint by day, cleaning schools by night, and spending weekends buried in a laundromat. Every dollar she earned was a battle won. Amara grew up under a roof that leaked during every rainstorm, with the nightly soundtrack of fireworks. No gunshots echoing from the streets. While the neighborhood kids dreamed of becoming rappers or NBA athletes, Amara was obsessed with taking apart old computers salvaged from the junkyard. By 13, she had hacked the Wi-Fi router for the entire block, just to save her mother the internet bill. By 16, she had started her own side hustle fixing broken laptops. At 18, she got into Northwestern University with a partial scholarship, 2 part-time jobs, 3 additional grants, and countless bowls of instant noodles. Later, she graduated with honors, but the real forging of steel came after college. At her first company, even after creating an algorithm that saved millions of dollars, Amara watched her boss receive all the glory. At her second company, a white male colleague with fewer qualifications than her was promoted ahead of her. And at the third company, she realized, if I don't build my own table, I'll forever be handed a broken chair. So at 28, Amara sold everything she owned, pawned off every asset, even her beat-up old Corolla, to found Luminatech. Her first office, a 25-square-meter studio where the kitchen and bathroom shared the same door. Her first employees, 2 college friends just as fierce in spirit, willing to survive on bargain pizza for 6 months in exchange for equity. 15 years later. Luminatech operates in 27 countries. Last year's revenue won $6 billion. Amara Johnson didn't just succeed. She became the living definition of one word: unbreakable. And this morning at the airport, she wasn't just on her way to sign a $500 million deal with the Singapore Investment Fund. She was preparing to show the world who truly belongs in first class. That early morning, Amara wheeled her stylish suitcase straight toward the first-class check-in area, just like she had so many times before. But this time, the universe decided to test her patience. Standing at the priority counter was a young agent named Brittany. Her lips painted a glaring red. She glanced up and said, "Economy check-in is over there, ma'am." Her voice was as sweet as sugar water, but her eyes were cold as a freezer door. Amara smiled and held out her first-class boarding pass. "First-class seat, 2A, right where I'm supposed to be." Brittany eyed the ticket as if it were a free flyer handed out at a flea market. She sniffed, tapped a few keys on her computer, then twisted her mouth like she had bitten into a lemon. "Please wait a moment, ma'am. There's a system irregularity we need to check." System irregularity. My foot, Amara thought silently. At the same time, a few overweight white gentlemen in Armani suits next to her were waved through like VIPs. No questions, no checks, no hassle. A spark lit up in Amara's eyes, but the real fun was just about to begin. Just as Amara sat down to wait for her information verification, a supervisor named Dennis appeared. His suit was sharp, but his whole demeanor reeked of prejudice. He gave Amara a once-over, the kind of glance from someone who believed people like you don't belong in first-class international. "First-class tickets are pretty expensive. You know that, right?" Dennis said, half smirking, half mocking. Amara answered calmly, her gaze cold as the Alaskan ice. "I know. Paid cash, not swiped on an installment plan." Brittany and Dennis looked momentarily flustered, but quickly cooked up a so-called security protocol. "We'll need you to provide your passport, credit card, and a letter of verification from your company." A letter of verification from her company. This had to be a first in aviation history. Meanwhile, other passengers were breezing through boarding with no extra questions, no extra scrutiny. The staff whispered among themselves. Probably her first time flying. First, she looks nervous. Maybe she booked it with a promo voucher or something. Amara sat there regal and composed silently, counting down 5, 4, 3, 2. And just as she predicted, while she was still being verified, the boarding doors closed. The plane took off, and her first-class seat 2A flew away without her missing only its rightful owner. It's rightful. Dennis turned back, flashing a smile as sweet and as sticky as molasses. "Unfortunately, ma'am, you've missed your flight. But don't worry. We can book you an economy seat on the next one if you'd like." Economy? After all this circus? Amara calmly picked up her phone. Her face was no longer that of a polite passenger. It was the face of a commander launching a quiet revolution. And that, my friend, was the moment she pressed the button to activate the annihilation plan. Amara Johnson tucked away her boarding pass, standing silent and composed amidst the growing stir of the crowd. At that moment, her phone vibrated the screen, flashing Marcus Chen, Chief Strategy Officer. Without a moment's hesitation, Amara answered. Her voice was soft as a breeze, but each word rang out sharp and cold as steel. Activate Plan Delta. Cancel all negotiations with Skylux Airlines. transfer the full $7 billion contract to Phoenix Air. On the other end, Marcus replied instantly, "Understood, Madam Johnson." And about Skylux's stock. Amara smiled, adjusting her blazer with a flick of the wrist. Start selling gently. Let them savor every minute. Meanwhile, Dennis, the smug supervisor, still stood at the counter, hands on hips, mouthing off, "You can rebook. Economy seat back of the plane right by the toilet. Probably more fitting for you?" A few passengers snickered. Dennis smirked, basking in his petty triumph. Amara looked up, her gaze calm but ice-cold. "You know, Dennis, in just about 10 minutes, your company's stock price is going to drop faster than my faith in your customer service." And just like prophecy, the airport's electronic screens suddenly flickered and went dark. The boarding monitors went pitch black. The overhead announcements cut off mid-sentence, leaving behind an awkward pop sound that echoed through the terminal. An elderly man blinked and asked power outage. "No, sir, this wasn't a blackout. This was karma, instant delivery." On the stock market, the ticker for Skylux began free-falling. Down 5%, 8%, 12%. In less than 20 minutes. The entire terminal erupted into chaos. Like an anthill kicked over. Check-in, agents flailed passengers, shouted, children wailed. As for Amara Johnson, she stood there serenely observing the scene like a maestro conducting an orchestra of pure, beautiful mayhem that she herself had just set into motion. Right at that moment, someone whispered, "Wait, did that lady just crash the whole airport?" Correct, and that was just the appetizer for the Skylux Airlines meltdown feast that Amara had just set in motion. Terminal D was boiling over, passengers shouting, staff running around like headless chickens. Amidst the chaos, a figure swept in. Charles Beaumont, CEO of Skylux Airlines, hair slicked back, suit crisp and tailored, still trying to walk with authority, even though beads of sweat were beginning to form on his forehead. Seeing Amara Johnson standing calmly in the eye of the storm, Charles narrowed his eyes and barked, "You're causing a disturbance. I demand you leave the airport immediately." Amara smiled, the kind of smile you give when you've just heard a terribly bad joke. "Oh, leave the airport. Are you sure you want me to leave right now?" Charles. Behind. Charles' supervisor, Dennis, and Agent Meredith huddled together, faces drained of all color like wilted leaves. And right then, a swarm of reporters, journalists, and TV crews flooded into Terminal D. Microphones, cameras, and drones popped up like they were about to broadcast the World Cup live. A quick-handed reporter thrust a microphone forward. "Excuse me, who are you? How did you cripple Skylux Airlines' entire system?" With just one phone call. Amara smiled, stepped gracefully onto a nearby waiting chair, very theatrically, and declared loud and clear, "I'm Amara Johnson, CEO and founder of Orion Technologies. And by the way, I'm also the largest shareholder of Skylux Airlines, holding 29% of the company's stock." The entire terminal erupted into a storm of gasps and murmurs. Dennis stumbled backward, tripping over a suitcase. Meredith stood frozen like a wax statue. As for Charles Beaumont, his mouth hung open as if he had just swallowed a live goldfish. Nearby, an 8-year-old girl tugged at her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mom, is she a superhero?" The mother nodded vigorously, her eyes shimmering with awe. "That's right, sweetheart. A superhero in a blazer." Without missing a beat, Amara delivered the final crushing blow. "I'm not here today. just for a business trip. I'm here to finalize a $3 or $7 billion global logistics contract for my corporation. Initially, Skylux Airlines was a contender, but after today's little display of priority service, I'm officially removing you from the running. Behind her, the electronic ticker updated in real-time. Skylux Airlines, 18%, 23%, 31%. An elderly lady, dragging a suitcase, muttered under her breath, "Dropping faster than gas prices during the COVID crash." Charles's face drained of all color. His lips quivered as if he wanted to plead, but Amara gave him no opening. "I'm not suing over a denied seat. I'm not shouting about being humiliated. I'm letting your system expose itself for what it truly is." And now the entire world is watching Skylux Airlines freefall. Camera lenses zoomed tight on Charles's face, where sweat was now pouring down in visible streams. Within 30 seconds, the spectacle at Terminal D had become the #1 trending topic worldwide, under the hashtags Justice by Amara, Skyfall of Skylux. And even before the murmurs had fully died down, Amara Johnson gracefully stepped down from the chair as if she were walking onto a stage to accept an Oscar. She waved her hand. From the far end of the terminal, a squadron of sleek, black-suited professionals marched in Lawyers Financial Advisors PR team. And Samantha Pierce, Amara's trusted assistant and legendary media hit woman. Samantha handed Amara a thick file. Amara raised it slightly, offering a faint smile. "Allow me to present the evidence. 83 cases of discriminatory conduct, 42 ignored HR complaints, 7 violations of federal civil rights regulations, all documented within Skylux Airlines' own system over the past 24 months. Charles stood frozen. Behind him, Meredith looked ready to faint. Dennis, meanwhile, was sneaking out his phone, trying to search for new jobs on LinkedIn. But Amara wasn't finished. She coolly announced, "Effective immediately, I am convening an emergency board of directors meeting for Skylux Airlines. Under my rights as a 29% shareholder, and per the shareholders' agreement, I hereby motion the immediate suspension of Charles Beaumont from his position as CEO." The entire terminal exploded, as if they had just witnessed a knockout punch live in the middle of a championship fight. A tablet was opened right there on the spot, connecting via video call to the board members whose faces had all gone pale on the other end. The chairman of the board, a heavy-set man with a crooked tie, hastily spoke up. "Ms. Johnson, we accept your motion. Charles Beaumont is hereby suspended from his position, effective immediately." Charles collapsed into his chair like a sack of peeled potatoes. The loudspeakers echoed across the terminal. "Attention Skylux. Airlines is temporarily suspending all flights to conduct an internal restructuring." The passengers erupted into cheers. Some even pulled out their phones to livestream the moment a CEO got wiped out right there at the airport. A young man whistled and gave a thumbs up. "Hey, Miss Amara, are you hiring? I got fired by Skylux 2 weeks ago for wearing jeans." Amara laughed. "Apply, kid. At my company, we don't judge people by their clothes." In less than 2 hours, Amara Johnson had toppled the CEO of Skylux, frozen the airline's entire operational system, sent their stock price into a catastrophic nosedive costing hundreds of millions of dollars. And she did it all with just one phone call and a cold, calculating smile. Within just 30 minutes, after Amara Johnson overthrew Skylux Airlines right there at the airport. The outside world exploded. Amara Johnson. Skylux. Reckoning. Justice. At Terminal B, those three hashtags dominated the global trending charts across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. People everywhere buzzed as if they had just witnessed a pop superstar publicly slap a CEO in the middle of Times Square. A video of Amara standing on a chair exposing Skylux with the fierce poise of a queen of justice uploaded by a passenger racked up 10 million views in just 2 hours. The comment sections exploded. Not all superheroes wear capes. Some wear suits, carry folders, and knock out CEOs in 5 minutes. Walked into the airport with a suitcase. Walked out with an entire airline collapsed at her feet. Queen Amara. Someone built a statue of Amara at Terminal B. Mainstream media quickly jumped in. CNN aired a breaking news segment. Skylux Airlines CEO suspended after discrimination. Allegations. Whistleblower, one of America's most powerful black female CEOs. The New York Times ran a front-page headline, "From a denied first-class seat to an earthquake that shook the aviation industry." Forbes rushed out a special edition, Amara Johnson, the woman who made Wall Street tremble. Meanwhile, over at Skylux Airlines headquarters, shareholders flooded in for an emergency meeting. The stock price plummeted so sharply that the stock exchange had to temporarily halt trading, citing excessive volatility. Competitors seized the opportunity to launch new marketing campaigns. Fly with us, where first class doesn't require a skin color check. Air Nova ad on Amara's side. When asked by a CNN reporter about how she felt, she simply shrugged with a touch of humor. "I just wanted a peaceful business trip. Who knew I'd have to teach them a lesson on how the modern world works?" Then Amara flashed a subtle smile, the kind of smile that said, "That's what happens when you judge me by my simple suit and small suitcase." From that moment on, Amara Johnson was no longer just the CEO of Nexus Tech. She became a living symbol of justice for anyone who had ever faced discrimination, a nightmare for any airline foolish enough to disrespect their customers. The golden name at the forefront of the nationwide movement: respect before boarding. After the seismic event at the airport, Amara Johnson didn't just freeze Skylux Airlines' operations, she ignited an unprecedented revolution in the history of the global aviation industry. Just 2 weeks later, the The Department of Transportation issued a new regulation. All airlines must record and publicly disclose data on customer treatment based on race and gender. After an internal investigation, Skylux Airlines officially fired its entire former leadership team, including the legacy figure Bradley Winters, who was now volunteering to plant trees in public parks, as a way to atone for his life mistakes. Other airlines, from Air Nova to Pacific Wings, rushed to launch every passenger, treated like a VIP campaigns desperate to avoid becoming the next Skylux disaster. As for Amara Johnson, honored by Time magazine as the woman who changed the skies, nominated for the Civil Rights Hero Award, standing alongside veteran human rights activists, and received an amusing offer from Netflix. We'd love to produce a series titled The Sky Queen Amara's Story. Who would you like to play? Viola Davis or Zendaya? Amara laughed. Find someone with the vibe that just one step could bring down an entire airline. But Amara didn't rest on her laurels. She founded Horizons Aviation, a brand new airline with a bold slogan, "Where dignity always flies first," where dignity is prioritized even before the ticket. Horizons didn't just promise fair service. They also trained their flight attendants through a program called The Art of Serving from the Heart Without Seeing Color. Installed internal AI monitoring systems to detect and address any early signs of discrimination. Dedicated a portion of their annual profits to fund scholarships for minority students pursuing careers in aviation. 6 months after the Gate 37B incident, Horizons Aviation officially launched its New York-Singapore route. The very first aircraft was christened the Justice Flight 001. The ribbon-cutting ceremony, led by none other than Amara Johnson herself, clad in a pure white suit, a symbol of new beginnings. As the Boeing 787 lifted off, the passengers erupted into applause, not just for the journey, but for the dawn of a new era. An era where the skies no longer had room for prejudice or injustice. They once tried to drag Amara Johnson down to the ground instead. She took flight and lifted the whole world higher with her.